talk about the joys and challenges of aging every Saturday morning on the Aging Adventure, brought to you by Legacy Retirement Communities. Good morning, I'm Dale Johnson, joined by John Kopetsky and Kathy Blythe. John is Executive Director of Legacy Terrace at 5700 Fremont Street, and Kathy brings to the conversation her love for and longtime relationship with the Legacy. Good morning, John. Good morning, Kathy.
Hi, Dale.
Hey, Dale.
I recently attended a class on Medicare at Southeast Community College, and at one point I looked around the room and I realized that everyone there was the same age. Retirement age. We'd all lived through Beatlemania. We likely knew someone who fought in the Vietnam War and remember what life was like using a rotary phone. I say all this as a way of introducing our subject today, the study of aging, or gerontology. Our expert is Dr. Julie Masters, professor, and Terry Haney, chair of gerontology at UNL. Dr. Masters also supports honor and doctoral students interested in end-of-life research. Good morning, Dr. Masters.
Hey, good morning. How are you today?
Good.
Dr. Masters, thank you for joining us again today. We're looking forward to delving into the subject of just what is gerontology and what is a gerontologist. Can you give us an answer to that?
You bet. First of all, John, thank you so much for the opportunity to return and to be in your company and Kathy's company and Dale's. I'm very grateful. So I want to make sure I say that. So gerontology, first of all, this is a word that has escaped people's thinking, I think, for the last several decades until only recently. And where I'm going with that is when I studied gerontology 100 years ago, when I would tell people I was studying gerontology, they'd say, are you studying family trees? Are you studying rocks? What do you study? And today, what's probably the most heartwarming discovery is that people know, or at least have heard the word gerontology. And gerontology is the study of the physical, psychological, and social aspects of aging, but it's also about the built environment. So I think about the space at Legacy and what a beautiful space it is. And so when you can have people who understand the aging experience to help inform how to build space to support people as they age, that's what gerontology is about. Someone who's a gerontologist, so a gerontologist, and that's social science, is someone who possesses a minimum of a master's degree or more. So the Academy for Gerontology in Higher Education has just designated that the gerontologist has the master's degree or higher. Someone with a bachelor's degree who has a bachelor's degree in gerontology would be referred to as an aging specialist.
So what kinds of careers would a gerontologist or an aging specialist have?
Oh, the careers are endless, and that's what makes the profession so exciting for people that are going into it. Whether I want to be working within the senior living industry, or if I want to work in home care, if I want to work for a bank, as an example, in the trust department, or if I want to work for an area agency on aging. For people who possess a master's degree or higher, they can also find themselves teaching within a university setting. So we require a minimum of a master's degree. But I think what makes gerontology so exciting, and I used this as an example with a reporter a couple of weeks ago, I said, think of gerontology this way. Gerontology is the plastics of the 21st century. So Dale, when you talk about the Beatles from the 60s and 70s, and you think about some of the movies from that particular time frame, it was all about, if you remember in the movie The Graduate, it was all about plastics, right? That's the wave of the future. Well, what I think I would suggest to you and to your listeners is aging is the wave of the future.
Dr. Masters, in the explanation that you gave us about what a gerontologist is and how many different ways that could go and that they could serve the senior population, is it conceivable, or maybe it's already happened, that there can be a gerontologist on staff at your doctor's office?
So when we talk about, and Kathy, I'm so glad you asked this question, because I think we need to make a distinction here. So someone who is a gerontologist would take more of a social science approach to understanding aging. So that might be somebody who could serve in the capacity, for instance, of a care manager, something of that sort. Or maybe if they have the background in testing, might be helpful in terms of performing tests and psychological tests. A geriatrician or someone in geriatrics is more the medical side. So if you're looking for a physician or a healthcare practitioner whose background and specialty is in aging, it's someone in geriatrics. By the way, Kathy, if I ruled the world, every baby born, and we, by the way, need more babies to be able to offset our depletion. But for every baby born, not only would they have a pediatrician at birth, but a geriatrician. Because someone who specializes in geriatrics, or frankly, gerontology, thinks 3 plays down the field. They're thinking long-term, what do you need to do when you're a young person, for instance, to build your bone mass, so osteoporosis isn't as significant of a problem as you age because you've already built the bone mass earlier.
And you can people will say, well, family history, this, genetics, that, I can't do anything about it. In fact, knowing your family history, if you have a risk factor, it's all the more imperative that you do something about it.
John, you couldn't have said that better. You couldn't have said that better. Thank you.
All righty, we have more coming up with Dr. Julie Masters, the professor and Terry Haney Chair of Gerontology at UNO. We'll be right back on the Aging Adventure.
Today on the Aging Adventure, brought to you by Legacy Retirement Communities, we focus on aging, getting insight from Dr. Julie Masters, professor and Terry Haney Chair of Gerontology at UNL.
Dr. Masters, you amaze us with the knowledge that you have about gerontology, and you love sharing your message with others. What do you think we most need to know about aging that we may not have thought of, or it might not be on our radar at all?
Kathy, great question. And I think, if I were to encourage people to think about aging, I'd ask people to think about aging more as an opportunity as opposed to an event. That people somehow think at 65, now I'm aging. But really, aging is a process. So the things I've done over the life course can catch up with me. The comments that John made in the earlier segment about genetics and lifestyle and things of that sort, all those things go with us into our aging years. So again, the more we can think bigger picture, long-term, the better.
Let's go into the myths next. What are we just totally off base on, or what has been perpetuated over the years that really isn't true at all?
Well, there's a couple of things, and I'm sure glad you asked that. So sometimes you'll hear people say that as people age, they become senile. The word senile just means old. It doesn't mean or suggest a cognitive impairment. And so if you're going to use the words, it's about using the right words. The other thing that you will see in the popular press frequently is that as people age, they go through a midlife crisis. The midlife crisis, there's nothing in our scientific literature to substantiate it happens. What probably happens is that people have access to more money and they can buy the things that might seem a little off the charts, like the fast car and the jewelry and things of that sort. But it's not because they're having a crisis, it's just because they have the resources. I think the other thing is when we think about the myths of aging, we tend to look at the aging population, and I think COVID probably perpetuated this myth, is that as people age, they become more alike. And in fact, as people age, they become more different. So just being with all of you, and you think each one of us comes with different life experiences, different wishes, wants, goals, desires, and so forth. We're all different people. The same thing applies to the aging population. So this idea that one size fits all couldn't be further from the truth. The good news is, as you age, you become more different.
And I have discovered, and I'm just about 59 years old, I've discovered in the last few years, I've given myself the freedom to be more and more of myself.
Good for you.
than I have in the past, and not worrying perhaps so much about what other people think of me. It's very liberating to be able to do that. Not that I don't care anymore, but I'm not quite as concerned about how other people perceive me. Is that something that's common among people who age?
Well, I think what happens is that people find themselves, their values, their interests, and it's about the age that you're suggesting, or I'm this close to 60. It's when you start seeing that it's not the things that you've accumulated that matter, it's the people, it's the memories, it's the relationships. And so it's that what Richard Rohr, R-O-H-R, talks about, second half of life living. It's really more about people and relationships than it is about things, about stuff. Because the first half of our life, we're so busy accumulating and trying to make our mark, we sometimes miss out on the things that probably matter the most. It's not until we reach 60 or a little older that we have this epiphany about, yeah, life is so much more than my stuff.
Wow, that's very profound. And I think striking a chord in all of us who are hearing you say it right now. It would be interesting, really, actually, it would be fabulous if you would tell us some of your role models. Who do you look to toward the grooviest aging people you can think of?
I love that, Kathy. You are reintroducing a word from the 20th century that needs to be said more often. So groovy people. So if I think about local people in Lincoln, I always think about Lita Powell Drake, who she has done so much with her life, and her resurgence in terms of YouTube and all her interviews that were out, she fascinates me. Of course, Dr. Osborne, Tom Osborne, who I have, like most native Nebraskans, have a profound respect for. But I have a respect for him because of his ability to think long term. What made him a brilliant coach was his ability to think about, again, 3 plays down the field, not this play. I also think about people at the national level like Condoleezza Rice, who's in her 60s, who just took a directorship position. I think she's brilliant, and I'm fascinated. Thomas Sowell, who's 90-some, who's equally fascinating, who gets more interesting. And John, you'll be glad to know this. He doesn't care what people think. And that's what I think is so liberating. But I would also say it doesn't have to be someone famous. I think about the people I see at my place of worship, where they are there, pardon the word, but religiously, and they are part of the community. And they are teaching me what it means to age. And the other person that comes to mind, of course, who just recently died, was Paul Johnsgaard. And he just put out 2 books this year. So this passion and this drive to continue to contribute, those are the people that make a difference. All of you, even if you're not quite 60, all of you are my role models, because you are approaching aging in a different way and you're willing to talk about it.
Amen to that, Dr. Masters. And I've met so many wonderful people living here at the Legacy Terrace over the years and I've said it a million times, when I grow up, I want to be just like that resident or this resident. It's just amazing the graceful way that people are experiencing aging. Dr. Masters, thank you so much for joining us.
It's been such a gift and a privilege to be in your company. I'm just truly grateful. So thank you all. And I just thank you to Legacy for the invitation. I'm very grateful.
Thank you, Dr. Masters. From getting older to getting rid of stuff, Janine Bryant of Changing Spaces SRS is next when the aging adventure continues. Let's talk about downsizing now on the Aging Adventure, brought to you by Legacy Retirement Communities. Our expert is Jeannine Bryant from Changing Spaces SRS. Good morning, Jeannine.
Good morning.
Janine, thanks for joining us this morning. We're now halfway through the year. We're into July. And so let's say I'm planning on moving by the end of 2021. What should the calendar look like in terms of downsizing?
Yeah, you know, summer hits. And then as we inch closer towards fall, sometimes people start to panic a little because they think, wait a minute, I think I want to be out of here before the first snowfall, right? And so it's always great to plan ahead. And one of the best tips that I can give folks who are trying to plan ahead is to start early. You can never start too early, right? Starting early is much better than starting late. But you know what you have to do is you have to know where you're going before you can really start sorting. I think that's a problem that a lot of people have because they kind of try to put the cart before the horse. They try to start sorting before they really have a good idea of where they're going. And so I really encourage our clients to figure out where they're going first and then begin the sorting process. Because once you know where you're going, you know how much space you have on the other end. And that changes your sorting process, doesn't it? For instance, if we're working with a client who is moving to legacy retirement communities, we want them to know what size apartment they're going to, what the layout of that apartment is. Is it a 1-bedroom? Is it a 2-bedroom? Are we talking independent living? Is it assisted living? Because then we can start making educated choices as far as what to keep and what not to keep when they're sorting.
Is it simply a matter of here's the square feet I have in my new apartment and making the stuff that we have fit in?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, sometimes it's just a math equation, isn't it? If you're going from 3,000 square feet down to 1,200 square feet, well, then that means that we've got to get rid of, 60% of your belongings. So usually we break it down by rooms. If someone is moving into a 2-bedroom apartment, for instance, we know that they're going to have a living room, they're going to have a kitchen, they're going to have a bedroom where they're going to sleep. And then we always ask, okay, what are we going to do with that second bedroom? Are we going to make that into an office? Is it going to be a den? Is it going to be another bedroom? And then we can start making those choices.
Jeannine, there are so many memories in our homes, and that was something that Dr. Masters was talking about just a little bit ago, too. Can you talk about the positive way to let go of a lot of your stuff while still honoring the memories connected to those items?
Yeah. I can really commiserate with clients who are going through that process. And I always remind them that one of the reasons why it's so hard to say goodbye to a house is because you've had so many happy memories there. And that's something you can really be grateful for. Something that I always try to encourage our clients and their families to do is to take lots of photos of the house just as it is now before you start sorting, before you take anything off the walls or put anything into a box. Or even better, take your smartphone and do a video walkthrough of that home, because in 3 years, you might really love watching that. And you know what? In 20 years, your children and grandchildren will love having that on file too. If you think to yourself, wouldn't you love to have a picture of your grandmother's living room or of her kitchen? And I always say, don't clean up, just take a picture of how those rooms are now. And that's going to be a treasure to you after you've said goodbye to that house.
The whole process of downsizing can just be absolutely overwhelming. What would you say to somebody who just says, I just don't know where to start? Is there a magic pill that you can offer?
Well, you could call Changing Spaces. We're one kind of magic pill. But otherwise, we always start with a floor plan. We figure out the furniture first. And that's why I say you have to know where you're going first and how big that new space is. Then we figure out the furniture. Then we just take it room by room and go through the little stuff after that. Once we know how many bookcases we're bringing, we know how many books we can bring. Once we know how many curio cabinets can fit in the new place, now we know how many tchotchkes can go. And then above all, you have to keep in mind that idea, keep the best, let go of the rest. And if you have to repeat that out loud to yourself as you're sorting, then do it. We're keeping the best and we're letting go of the rest. So even if we can just keep, if we have a collection that we love and that has a lot of memories attached to it, you don't have to keep the whole collection. You can keep just a few pieces of that collection to kind of help you remember, and then you can let the rest of it go. So it's all about setting priorities.
You just gave us a creative way there that people can downsize but still have something in their possession, because so many people have huge collections of whatever it is that they have been gathering all their lives. So a little can be representative of the entire thing. Is that what you're saying?
That's right, absolutely. And that combined with the photos and the videos is a great way to remember those things. And then maybe some of those things that you can't, you don't have room for, you have to let go of them, but you don't want just anyone to have them. You don't want a stranger to have them. Give them to family members and friends, and if it's around Christmas time or birthday, wrap it up and use it as a gift and give it to them. Because sometimes it feels better to know that a family member has some of those things.
Absolutely great advice as always, Jeannine. Thank you so much for being with us today and for all of the services you provide to seniors in our community.
Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Jeannine. Great conversation today. Aging advice from Dr. Julie Masters and downsizing advice from Janine Bryant. John and Kathy, we will talk again next week.
Thanks, Dale.
Thank you, Dale.
This is Dale Johnson on the Aging Adventure, brought to you by Legacy Retirement Communities.